If you're under 10, please stop watching now. For the rest of you, it will probably come as no surprise that Santa isn't real. Yeah, the obese grandfather with red clothes, a white beard, a magic sleigh, and an army of elves isn't located at the North Pole making and delivering children's presents. But in a story that is in some ways stranger than that fiction, Santa's namesake, Saint Nicholas, was a real person. He was a privileged padre who gave gifts to orphans, instituted traditions we still keep today, and fought for Christmas against heretics. He was a larger-than-life figure who had so many miracles attached to his name, he became a myth that grew ever larger and ever more jolly over time. See, this isn't an ordinary Christmas story, but before the red suit, the reindeer, the Coca-Cola commercials, it is a true one. This is the story of Saint Nicholas, the saint that became Father Christmas. Forget the North Pole and that whole winter wonderland thing. The real Santa Claus story starts right here in 3rd century Turkey under the blazing Mediterranean sun. His parents, they weren't messing around. They were wealthy Greeks, maybe merchants or shipwrights. Either way, they were rolling in it. Yet the family were devout Christians. In fact, his uncle was the bishop of the nearby city of Myra. Unfortunately, even faith and wealth can't solve all earthly problems, and Nicholas was left with a heavy heart when his parents died while he was still young. Truth be told, he would have been swimming in inheritance money. But here's the thing about Nicholas. He wasn't about that life. No fast chariots, no wild Roman parties. Remarkably, Nicholas's relationship with his godly father, as well as his uncle, carried him through the storm. This guy dedicated his life and his fortune to helping the poor and the sick. He went to Myra to study under his uncle. There, he developed a knack for something pretty special: secret gift giving. Sneaking gifts to orphanages, leaving surprises for kids in need. This guy was quite literally the original Secret Santa. But his biggest good deed? Saving 3 sisters from a fate worse than poverty. Their dad, a good Christian man, had given away everything to charity. Noble, right? Except now, when disaster struck, he had no dowry for his daughters. In 3rd century Turkey, that meant, well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. Those girls were facing a life of exploitation at the Temple of Love to earn their keep. Nicholas, horrified, decided to take matters into his own hands. Night after night, he climbed onto their roof, dropping bags of gold through the window until all 3 daughters had dowries secured and marriages arranged. When he was caught on the roof by the extraordinarily grateful father, Nicholas swore everyone to secrecy. He didn't want the credit, he just wanted to do the right thing. His incredible generosity inspired the tradition of giving gifts on Christmas Day. And yeah, that whole roof-climbing Santa thing, totally Nicholas. Alright, gather round, because this is where things get juicy. Legends swirled around St. Nicholas like a Christmas blizzard, some more believable than others. Ever heard of the pickled boys? This wild tale has St. Nick busting an evil innkeeper who has a rather unorthodox menu. Nicholas not only outs the creep, but also brings the poor pickled boys back from the dead. I suppose you could say he was a stickler for ethical sourcing. This story became so popular that it's all over medieval art. And get this, people later misinterpreted the paintings of the boys emerging from a barrel, leading to St. Nick becoming the patron saint of children and brewers. Go figure. But it wasn't all pickled boys and brewing mishaps. There were reliable miracles and stories that reveal the heart of the Christmas man. See, St. Nick was also a defender of justice. He saved 3 innocent men from execution, exposing corrupt officials and giving them a taste of their own medicine. And then there are the seafaring stories. Calming storms, rescuing ships, basically the opposite of a Mediterranean pirate. No wonder sailors still call him their patron saint. One crazy story even has him facing down the Great Famine of 311 to 312 AD. A Roman ship carrying grain headed for Rome docked at Myra, but the people there were starving. Nicholas, being Nicholas, convinced the captain to share the goods. And guess what? When the ship reached Rome, the grain weight hadn't changed one bit. Whether these stories are true 100% or embellished over time, one thing's clear. St. Nick was a champion of the downtrodden, a man of action, and above all, ridiculously generous. He moved in Holy Spirit power with a heart of gold. But it wasn't all fun and miracles. St. Nicholas also had some serious theological beef. It's possible our Santa actually spent some time in the slammer during the Diocletian persecution. You know, back when being a Christian could get you killed. But Constantine came along, pardoned the Christians, and Nick went straight back to it. But it seems some real drama went down at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. This was the big leagues, where the early church heavyweights gathered to codify the beliefs that had come before. Now, whether Nick truly made it there is disputed. You see, his name is missing from some of the early attendance lists, only showing up later, but it turns out there may have been a good reason for that. See, if you've been keeping up with holy histories, you know heretics were popping up like weeds back then. And this council, it was prime time for a showdown. Enter Arius. This guy was a big deal, denying the Trinity, claiming Jesus was just some sort of created being. But Nicholas? Well, apparently he wasn't having it. Some say he went full-on supernova, debating Arius with the fury of 1,000 suns. Others say he just straight up slapped the guy. Either way, Nicholas got temporarily benched, or defrocked as they call it, because of the incident. This would explain why his name may not have been included in the early lists. Now, historians can't prove this actually happened, but think about it. Why would those early saint historians, hagiographers, make this up? It kind of makes Nick look bad, right? Whatever went down, one thing's clear. St. Nicholas wasn't afraid to stand up for what he believed in, even if it meant throwing a few punches. A man of both action and faith. Still, even with all the wild stories and miracles, most of St. Nicholas's life is still shrouded in shadows. We don't know much about his trips to the Holy Land, or what he got up to on a daily basis in Myra, but one thing's for sure, his legend just kept growing after he kicked the bucket on December 6, 343 AD. His fame went viral, spreading across Europe like a TikTok trend. He became the patron saint of everyone and their grandma. Sailors, students, brewers, children, you name it, Saint Nick had their backs. He even became the patron saint of toy makers, which, let's be honest, that might explain a few things about those workshops at the North Pole. Even his bones went on a wild adventure. After he died, they were kept as relics, like holy souvenirs. But some Italian sailors decided they wanted in on the action. They kidnapped St. Nick's remains and sailed off to Italy. Now his bones are on display in a fancy basilica in Bari, South Italy. So how did we get from this venerated, generous old St. Nick to the jolly fiction of Santa Claus? The evolution of St. Nicholas into Santa Claus is a wild ride like a game of historical telephone where the story gets a little bit more outlandish with every whisper. As his legend exploded across medieval Europe, things got a bit embellished. Then the Reformation hit, and saints weren't so hot anymore. Except in Holland, where they clung to stories of St. Nicholas, Santa Claus they called him, like a kid to a candy cane. For reasons lost to history, he became a holiday hero, sailing in from Spain with gifts for well-behaved children. Then, Dutch settlers brought the stories of Santa Claus to America, where things got really interesting. America, being the melting pot it is, threw everything into the Christmas cauldron. German traditions, Norse folklore, and even a sprinkle of British Christmas magic. Finally, in 1823, New York poet Clement Clarke Moore dropped the classic banger, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." This poem, my friends, changed the game. Suddenly, no more bishop robes, no more sailing from Spain, or Turkey for that matter. Santa was a jolly, chubby dude with a sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. This was Santa Claus 2.0. But he still needed a makeover. Back then, Santa was rocking green robes. Not exactly the festive fashion icon we know today. Enter Coca-Cola. In the 1930s, they were looking to boost winter sales, and who better to help than Santa? Their iconic ads with Santa decked out in Coke's iconic red and white cemented the image we all know and love today. But here's the thing, through all the changes, the crazy stories, the magic, and the myth, the core of the story remains. Whether he's a Turkish bishop or a jolly Arctic magician, the real Santa Claus legacy is one of generosity, compassion, and doing the right thing. Indeed, St. Nicholas's defense of the truth and insistence on charity and gift-giving to celebrate the greatest gift humanity was ever given truly shows why St. Nicholas deserves his place in God's holy histories.